What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fully Corked podcast. My name is John. My co-host, as always, is Charlie.
Howdy.
We've got another good one for you guys today. And Charlie, how about you go ahead and let us know what we're going to be drinking?
All right, today we are drinking a Malbec. It is koi. I'm holding it up to the camera right now. And I've got all kinds of good facts about this as well as Malbec as a whole. It comes from Argentina. I'm going to pour it up right now, John.
Yeah.
Also for the viewers here, this has a wax sealing on the top. It looks like the guinea pig on the front of the bottle. Open mine. I don't know how you're supposed to do this with wax, John. So you can. I don't know if you can see it very well.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Butchered mine.
How did you try it?
I used my wine opener, and then the fangs of it dug into the wax, and then it slid off the wax and like ripped off more of the wax, and then none of the wax got into the wine, I think, but it was
We can't
kind
have
of a
a
messy
waxy
operation.
sip. I literally just took the wine opener and I like drilled it in through the wax. I didn't even touch the wax, and then I just pulled out the cork.
I did that too, but then you know how most wine openers have those two sets of prongs that you line up on the side of the bottle?
Yeah.
The prong like ripped some of the wax off.
Oh.
Because it kept sliding. I don't know. I for somebody who's opened many bottles of wine, I'm still kind of a rank amateur. But anyway, to get to the wine, so the Malbec grape actually originates in France, and it, upon its inception, quickly became used as a blending grape, but the grape itself had quite a bit of susceptibility both to poor weather and pests. So it moved. The majority of the production, 75% of the grapes now are grown in Mendoza, Argentina. So today we are drinking an Argentinian Malbec, and there's a little bit of a difference in the tasting notes depending on if it's coming from France or Argentina. John, I invite you to take a sip and weigh in as I kind of move through the academic part of this.
I'll sip right now while you're talking. I'll let you know what I think.
So the French Malbec is more savory and tart with firm tannins and flavors of plum and leather. I'm a little bit bummed we don't have a leather flavor note to be hunting for here. And the Argentinian Malbec, like the one we are drinking today, is more fruit forward, velvety texture, flavors of cocoa and plum. And I've got more fun facts. I just went down a rabbit hole here because I was looking at, again, this was actually a listener recommendation, but the art on the front is of a guinea pig, but guinea pig for countries that don't keep them as pets is called a koi, and that's the name of this bottle. So in Peru, where it's kind of a traditional dish, koi, guinea pig, I've learned that the population consumes 65 million koi dishes a year. It's likened to a tasty chicken dish, only firmer and greasier consistency.
Oh my!
And then I also saw it comped to eating rabbit with more dark meat.
Oh my goodness!
Today, to bring it back to reality and what we're doing here today, this one's from Argentina. Wow. So we'll be on the lookout for cocoa and plum. But John, anything finding your palate here early on?
Yeah, it's actually not as sweet as I was expecting. I can definitely taste the plum notes. It's a darker red fruit that I'm getting. I think I get a little bit of spice too. Maybe that's the cocoa, but if there is a cocoa to it, it's almost more of like a bitter flavor. It's not sweet, right? Like this isn't overly sweet.
No, it's not. It doesn't have a defining like specific fruit flavor to me. It seems like kind of a mix of like red and black fruit. I mean, like black cherry kind of comes to mind, but it's not like taking a sip of a black cherry White Claw, you know. It's not like that. It's all kind of subtle, you know.
I just got
you got blueberry,
or maybe some black raz. Yeah, I'm starting to on sip number
black
4.
raz.
Yeah, black raz.
Whoa. Okay.
This is the perfect table wine. Nope, that's a lie. That's Merlot. Nope, that's Merlot.
Malbec is simply a suitable table wine. It's not the perfect table wine.
It's not the perfect table wine. And maybe it's offensive to Malbecs to call it a table wine. We'll reserve that for Merlot. When I was in Argentina a little over a year ago at this point, I had my fair share of Malbecs, and these, I can confirm, taste fantastic with a tomahawk steak. Like, there's
Oh,
just something amazing about being in Argentina, and, like, you just have this go-to wine, and you just keep coming back to the well, Malbec after Malbec after Malbec. It's from, I believe, maybe you said this earlier, the Mendoza region, like, that's, like, their
yeah.
big wine, like, that's their Napa Valley equivalent, like, that's their big wine country. Awesome spot, and, like, cheap cheap wines. Like, I think
Did you have any koi dishes? Were you adventurous out there?
I stuck strictly to steak. I stuck to
The
what I
tama
for
I stuck to
tomahawks.
the tomahawk steaks.
Everything
Not a
was
bad
so
thing to stick to.
reasonable out there. Like, the US dollar is extremely strong out in Argentina, so you can have yourself some nice dinners for reasonable prices. And
Mm.
so I just kept ordering tomahawks. Like,
Went hog wild on the tomahawks. I'd do the same thing. Yeah.
any other tasting notes, Charlie? I gotta take one more sip and see if I got that black
Yeah,
raz
it's
again.
maybe I need to wait for it to open up a little bit more. I mean, I feel like it would be a slight to call the flavor profile muddled, but there is no one clear thing. I mean, I'm not sure. It's hard to put a finger on it, honestly.
I'll go out on a limb. I'll say this is an uninteresting wine. It's not bad. It's definitely not bad. Like, I could serve this during a game night or something, and we could probably
Yeah.
drink like 3 or 4 of these bottles, and nobody's complaining. But
If it's just me and you for the game night, or are we having other people, or
that would be just me and you. If we have
yeah,
others, it'd
okay.
be, 5 or 6 bottles, and
Yeah,
but I don't think
naturally.
you'd get sick of this wine. I think it's an extremely safe wine for the viewers who are maybe, like, trying to host their first Wine Wednesday, and they're watching The Bachelor, and they got cheese, and they got charcuterie boards going. This is a good one. I mean, I think it's probably, like, $10 to $12 price point at Trader Joe's, drinkable. It's not going to blow you away. I mean, I guess if you're trying to, like, do a wine tasting flavor profile, like, this is challenging. I'm getting nothing. I lost my black raz flavor too. I don't have that at all anymore.
I'm now cheating. I'm on a description of this wine, and I think the spice note you got, it's listed to have a nose of juicy black fruit and pepper with a hint of fresh mushrooms and evolution. I mean, that's just a hard ask. If any wine's component is a hint of fresh mushrooms and evolution, I'm not going to get that right.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, I love this description. The taste is as crazy as the label implies. Nice and knotty in texture with a playful challenge between acids and tannins that remarkably keep each other under control to push the fruit fully forward.
Wow.
Wow.
This sounds balanced.
Yeah, and I think to your point, it does feel safe. I mean, there's some like the bolder red wines. I think this is like a very like true to your just classic red wine taste.
Yeah.
I feel like this reminds me of like my first sip of red wine. It's just like right up the middle. So, in that sense it's safe, but also like a little bit unimpressive.
Yeah. At a dinner party, you're going to be fine if you bring this one, but you're not impressing your wine snob friends. Like, they're just going to be
No.
spitting it out in the toilet.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, all your many wine snob friends. All right, so let's move. And I'd say, if any notes hit you over the head, just jump in
Yep. Yep.
throughout the next piece. But let's go to the weekend recap. Can start with you, unless you'd like me to kick us off.
Yeah, this past weekend was Memorial Day weekend. I took a trip down to Southern California, did some exploration down in Laguna Beach too, which is like an hour 15 south from Los Angeles. And
Hmm.
it was great. I mean, up in San Francisco, we're actually hitting like kind of a tough weather time of year. Like, this is where we get a lot of the overcast and fog and wind.
Carl's poking his nosy head out.
Yeah, Carl the Fog likes to rain on our parades, literally and figuratively, this time of year. So it's nice to get down to sunny Southern California and like feel some real heat. I got sunburnt to all hell.
You're glowing. You're glowing,
I'm
dude.
not going to be seeing sun for
Yeah.
weeks on end up here in Northern California. So I don't mind it. I was trying to think of like just noteworthy things. I had probably one of the dumbest comments I've ever made in conversation occur over this
Oh, I
past
love this.
weekend. So I'm talking to Lindy, and we're just kind of going over like our decision to both go to University of Wisconsin Madison for school. And we were talking about like other colleges we may have like been interested in or thought about or whatever. And
Oh, I'm very curious about this actually.
yeah, so my dad went D3 in Minnesota and he played baseball and he had that college experience where he was like an athlete, like thought that was
St.
cool.
Olaf? Where'd he
He
go?
went to a place called Concordia.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah.
was a
Yeah.
cobber. Their logo
Yeah.
or their nickname was the Cobbers, which was an ear of corn. And he grew up his high school mascot was a spud, like a potato.
Oh my. So he's kind of locked in on the vegetables.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
then he went and worked for, like, an agricultural firm out of school. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the man stayed true to his roots, true to his mascots.
Literally.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a tangent I'll take us on once you're done with
Oh,
your
yeah,
story.
beautiful. Hold that thought. So, not a whole lot to this story other than the fact that maybe I was just stroking my own ego, but, like, in high school, as you know, I played tennis, and
Yeah.
you're familiar with my game. Like, it's nothing special. It's a little, like, hack job.
Big forehand, even bigger backhand, huge serve.
Yeah. Serving lefty, playing righty, like, there's
Yeah.
some broken parts of my game.
Yeah, for the listeners, you'll never meet somebody else who does this. John serves and takes overhands with his left hand, which is good, I think. It's like a lefty pitcher in baseball. Like people just don't have the reps against it. It's harder. So that's a good piece, but he hits every other shot righty. So it's like you just don't see it very often, but
Yeah,
continue.
yeah.
Good player, of
So,
course.
my dad, bless his heart, he's like, "You know, I did D3, I went the athlete route, it served me very well, like, I think this would be something that would be nice for you to consider." And so we'd go to, like, multiple colleges, and, like, I'd always have to go tour the tennis facilities because I sucked ass at every
Yeah.
other high school sport. So, like, this was, like, my shot, and I had, like, tennis captain on the resume and all that good stuff, and,
Yeah.
my dad would always go, like, have a conversation with the coaches, and, like, I'm just not that good, like, to even consider, like, D3 tennis, like, maybe
Oh,
cusp,
you could have
but, like,
played D3, dude,
well, I
for
appreciate
sure.
you
Are you kidding?
saying that to all the listeners because my comment was, and this was Concordia, so this was the college that my dad had a little bit more of an in with too, and
Yeah.
I told Lindy, I go, "I was considered for D3," and, like,
Yeah.
not even the fact that I was recruited or anything, like, I met with the coach and I was considered for D3.
Did you get recruited at all? I remember getting, like, a couple I think UW Whitewater reached out to me.
Oh, no way. No, I
If they're D3.
they
It was
reached
some
out to you,
D3
though?
Wisconsin school. Yeah. But it was, like, the same type of reach out that you get from any college saying, "You're 6 feet tall, like, come row for us."
Oh, I got
It kinda
those,
felt like
yeah. It
yeah.
felt like
I
that.
kinda put it in that same bucket where it was like, I never considered that really.
That's pretty much the end of the story, but the issue with the comment was just, like, me trying to, like, you know, be a hot shot, like, I was almost recruited to D3.
Yeah, yeah. I was almost recruited to the bottom of the barrel
Yeah.
in terms of the collegiate sporting world. You're a very lucky lady, Lindy.
Yeah.
Just be
She
reminded.
was just like, "Hold up, like, what did you just say? What did you just try to pass off as, like,
Yeah.
an
No, that's
ego
awesome.
pump?" And so that was, like, I don't know, that was funny. I like, what a stupid comment. I was just like, "Oh."
So, I have one question for you about that. What if you had to say, both you and Lindy, your top school that wasn't Wisconsin, where would you have gone if you didn't go to Wisconsin?
It's a school I didn't even apply to. Uh,
Okay.
but it would have been USC. I
Well,
always
I
wanted to
mean,
go. I thought that would be really
yeah,
cool.
well, I applied, dude. They didn't let me in. Waitlisted and denied.
No way.
Yeah,
Even an
yeah,
out-of-stater? Oh.
yeah. They could have taken me for a ride, dude. $60,000 a year.
Well, it's probably good I didn't apply then. I'll never know. I could just always be like, "Yeah, I woulda went."
If I wouldn't have gotten into Wisconsin, I would have gone to USC. Yeah, that's another thing you could say there.
Yeah, I was considered for USC.
I liked Rice in Texas. I thought was really
That's
cool. I
the
was
Harry
sold
Potter
on the
school.
that is exactly what sold me
Yep,
too.
yep.
I mean, good school, but that was cool too. Two other college things you might appreciate. So my brother, I was going on tours with him when he was looking at like Boston College, BU, and so we toured Harvard as
Mhm.
well. And after that, and I ended up applying to Harvard. And Bruce was telling me, my dad, here's what you need to do. This is a school that prides itself on its diversity and this is your angle in, is you write your whole application essay acknowledging the fact that they're looking for diversity, and then you mention that what I bring in terms of diversity is a stupid person. You have no stupid people on campus. I can be that person for you. And I didn't go that route, and I was also just denied. I did apply. And I applied like everywhere. And the other college story that's funny, you were talking about your dad's mascot. My dad missed the deadlines for all the colleges he wanted to go to, applies to University of Puget Sound in Washington, to be a marine biologist. He gets
Wow.
to campus and goes to his counselor and asks, where what's kind of the best track to do marine biology. That's why I'm out here. And they tell him, we do not have a marine biology program. And so
No.
college was different back then. I mean, he made it work. But just funny stuff. The other college I weirdly had in my brain was Swarthmore College. If you've ever heard of it, that
No.
was another one I was interested in. That and
Swarthmore?
Dartmouth too. Yeah, Swarthmore.
Where is it?
It's like a small private college. I think it's in Pennsylvania. I'll look it up. Swarthmore. Yeah, it's in Swarthmore,
And did
Pennsylvania.
you tour this college?
Small liberal arts college. No, I didn't. But I just like I saw on their website. I mean, this is probably not the best way to evaluate where you're gonna go, but I was like, it's so green and so cool and like whatever. It was kind of like it's like as expensive as an Ivy with none of the perks type school.
Probably could have played tennis there, though. I probably could have played tennis there.
You would have been considered minimum. No, the college stuff's always funny. I probably applied to like 12 colleges.
That's so much effort. I was so lazy. Like, I think I did like the Common App or whatever that was, and I got into like a
Yeah,
few. And then once I got into Wisconsin, I was just kind of like game over. Like, I know I'm going to go there.
dude. Actually, I got to take it all back. So Georgetown was a school that I really wanted to go to, and went and took SAT like subject tests in order to apply for. How many times did you take the ACT?
I took it twice and I got in with my worst score to Wisconsin. Like, I didn't even need to take it a
Really?
second time. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I was like, I think it was kind of the culture of the high school I went to, but everybody was like trying to see what big name college you could get into. So I mean, I took the ACT 3 times. I took multiple prep courses, did multiple SAT subject tests, all to get waitlisted and denied absolutely everywhere other than Wisconsin. And I remember too, and this is what it is, subtle flex, but my best ACT, I got it back and I get a and I remember I'm in my room and I throw my phone into the ceiling when I see it because I'm like, I can go wherever I want. My dream come true. I'm going to USC. I'm going to Georgetown. And I like get denied fucking everywhere. And
Dude,
I'm just like,
what?
all right.
I was going through and deleting old emails to free up space on my phone, and I literally found essays I submitted to try to get like college credit or whatever. You know what I like scholarships?
Yeah.
And I it was like one of the most cringeworthy things I've
Oh
ever
yeah.
read.
So mine was about my baby blanket, which I
No
I'm
way.
not kidding. I'm not kidding. It was about my baby blanket because, and if you ever ask my family or cousins, whoever about this, I was inseparable from this thing. It really like well past an age where that is appropriate. I would guess like even like at like 13 years old, maybe I was still toting that thing around in places it shouldn't be. And then I was at the Mall of America. This is why I hate the Mall of America. I lost it in the Mall of America. And so the essay is kind of about like, having a place of security, which is when I was with it and then losing that and kind of I don't even really know what the hell it was about. I mean, it honestly, if you were reading that essay, you're like, this dude's just a little baby who lost his blanket. Like, why the hell would we let him in? But I remember in the moment thinking, like, oh, this is good. This is really good. And it's deep. Dude, the one thing that was actually really good, and the high school I went to was college prep. One of the things that they made everybody do going into your senior year, so junior year summer, everybody had to volunteer for 40
Mm,
hours. And so what a lot of people did, myself included, was go volunteer at this special needs camp, Camp Friendship. And that was actually like an awesome thing. Like
mhm.
you are doing good work, you're also, you know, learning, you're just kind of in Unfamiliar space. I mean, at that time, I guess, I don't know, it's just a really good experience, a good thing that the school did. It's like an everybody wins. I do feel like I grew a little bit from that experience and doing the volunteer work, because I had done like a lot of like feed my starving children, things like that, like meal packing, and that's great to do, but this was a lot. It appealed more to my interpersonal side of like helping people face to face,
Yeah.
you know. So that was
I
cool.
feel that like whenever I do like volunteering type experience where you actually volunteer your time and interact with individuals versus just like food packing is great too. Like I've done feed my starving children as well, but like when you actually get that individual connection, it's really cool. Like I
Yeah.
remember I was volunteering with like kids one time. This one little kid for whatever reason like took a huge liking to me and like drew a picture of me and gave it to me and I was
Yeah,
like
that's
that's so cool. Like that's so
melts your
rewarding.
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, makes you, I mean, it just reminds you what it's like to be human, you know? You take a step out of your comfort zone, you learn a couple things, you make some connections, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
So, all the listeners out there, go volunteer for Christ's sake. Go help the world. Um, all right. So, do you have anything else on your weekend recap?
No, it was a long tangent. How about yourself?
So, I went mini golfing. I golfed 27 mini golf
Woo.
holes, and really, two things are important. Number one, uh, I did have to yell 4 on this mini golf course. That's number 1.
Charlie,
I was
wait,
teeing off.
what? What?
I was teeing off. The hole had a very sharp hill at the front, and in the first 9 that we played, I had left a couple balls short. I was still trying to find the range, and, and so I took a cut at it, and it took the ramp and flew off of the course and into the group ahead of us. And so I'm pretty sure it actually hit a woman in the knee. But I had to yell 4. It was all good. She was fine. There was no real issue. So that was kind of
How
embarrassing.
big of a
And then,
windup did you have?
I mean, it was maybe above my knees. Like I put some juice on it.
What's that saying your dad always says when he leaves it short?
Coward. I didn't, that was
Coward.
ringing in the back of my head. I said that to myself out there too. It was, I mean, I left some putts short and there's shots I wish I could take back, but and then here's the other one. So we are in the final hole. Actually, I'll tell you about the last 2 holes of this library theme. For night, there was 3 different sections, each with a different theme. Library is their hardest section, so it's totally bottlenecked. Everybody is doing like horribly on these holes. We're kind of like starting to become late for a dinner thing. 8th hole, the group in front of us, very like delightful people, but also just kind of dorks who have never touched a golf club ever.
Is this the woman you hit?
No, no, I had a woman in the group, like, even ahead of them.
Oh, you launched it, skyrocketed over the group in front of you.
Launched it. So this group on one of the harder holes, 8th hole, they both one putt, hole in one. And so we're celebrating with them and we're excited. I take my shot. I hole in one it to give myself a nice little lead entering the last hole, or like I guess a deficit in terms of like total strokes.
Right.
And so they're celebrating with me. They're like, "Yeah, hole in one, 3 in a row." Seth, our buddy, was also with me. He tees off, does not get a hole in one, and they start booing him, which was awesome. And then I started booing him. It was super funny. And then I instant karma next hole. You max out at 6 putts. I had a 2-stroke lead going into the last hole. I go first because I'm in the lead.
Mhm.
It wasn't a 6, it was a pickup. Didn't even get it done in 6. And then Seth hole in one
No,
it.
he didn't.
Yes,
You
he
picked
did.
up a ball on the same hole some guy got a hole in one on?
Yep, yep. That's what
How were
happened.
you leading in this group ever? Like
uh, that's a good question. The I almost like I need to show you a picture of the hole. Really, the reason, if you miss your first shot, if you do not hole in one it, there's a good chance you're gonna go to the max, because it was like this very skinny uphill path that you
Mhm.
needed to like send it right up there. And I failed to do that. I read the green wrong, and then I was just in hell in this impossible, like, once you don't have a straight shot, you can't hit it. So I was just screwed.
Mhm.
And so that was pretty disappointing. And so yeah, that was mini golfing. It was actually pretty fun. I nostalgic, good time. Um, and other than that, the marathon training continues. I do have a bit of a tragic tale, so we're getting higher in miles here.
How many are you up to now?
Next This week is 20.
Oh my gosh. Is that the
And so
max?
that is the max
Wow.
for me. And it also is supposed to come the day after like my childhood best friend's wedding that I'm a groomsman in. So it's going to
You're
be
cooked.
terrible. So after this run, I've learned something, and it's that I need to run with some sort of nipple protective uh I guess device. And for me, like I have like some like I don't even know what type of tape. Like, there's some sort of softer tape somewhere in this apartment. That is my plan moving forward.
Mhm.
But at the end of this run, I find myself in kind of like shocking nipple pain, and wasn't really feeling it during the miles. But then at the end of it, um, I have my shirt off. I'm looking in the mirror because I'm like, what the hell's going on? And my nipples are like, they look like they've been through a cheese grater. Like
No.
they're decimated and bleeding. Um,
No.
and so
And were you
that
running
was
with any nipple protectors or
not at that time. And I really should have been. It was like a, hot, humid day. The friction just ate away at my
oh
nipples.
my god.
No way around it, no other way to phrase it. So yeah, they're bleeding, and to compound that issue, as I usually do after a long run, I went to this sauna cold tub place and essentially did this with beat up nipples so other people can kind of
Were
see
you
like
bleeding out?
it wasn't actively bleed. I would not have gotten into the water if it was still like leaking blood. But like, that's kind of embarrassing, dude, because it's like
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think of I mean it wasn't an open wound, it wasn't bleeding, but it looked really like if you were to look at my nipples, you would be like that's there's something not right here. Like they've sustained damage.
Did they
So,
look big and
I kind of
swollen, or were they
no,
more,
they weren't
like,
swollen,
cut
like,
up?
it
Like,
was yeah, they would look like they were cut up, like somebody took, like, a little butter knife and was, like, shaving at them or something, I don't know.
sounds so painful. Oh my
It, like, wasn't great, and so that was kind of embarrassing. That's really most of my weekend, but moving forward, we're running with some sort of nipple protection.
Yeah. What is the nipple protection of choice? Is it's tape?
It's just gonna be tape. I mean, unless somebody listeners, please sound off in the comment, like, if there's a better way to do it, let me know. I mean, I feel like I've heard of people rubbing, like, oils and stuff on their
I
nipples,
wouldn't
but,
go
like,
there.
probably
Uh-uh.
I've heard people do that on their arms too to, like, prevent chafing, like, just from doing this for, like, 4 hours straight,
Mm.
but I don't know, I haven't had that issue, but come marathon day, I'll probably,
26
like
miles is a long time to run with chafing issues. Like,
yeah, no, it is. I got a little more prep to do before then in terms of just making sure I'm in one piece at the end of it. But yeah, that was most of the weekend. I met for the first time a nephew of mine, Philip, young 13-year-old boy, super funny.
nice.
So that was nice too. I don't interact with many babies, so it's kind of cool.
Did you say
Dude, here's
13-year-old or 13-month-old?
13
Oh,
month. Here's a thing that's really cool about young children. And I made this comment like far too many times to the parents. Was their hip mobility. I think about this because when I'm running now, my hips are like just so tight. This baby can go from just walking like a regular
mhm.
baby to like its squatted position, super low, like a fully deep squat. And I was just blown away by the hip mobility of this baby. And I kept saying that to the parents, and they were like, "Yeah, he's a baby. Like they do that." And I don't know. It was fine. They were nice about it. They were nice about it. But
I think you start refining that baby's craft, turn him into a hockey goalie. That amount of
yeah,
flexibility, like, if you harness that energy and that, like, athletic gift, that baby could go somewhere.
we'll think about this. We'll think about a path for the baby because this baby is a lover, not a fighter. One of the
Mm.
things I was doing with the baby in the park, I gave him a stick, and then I grabbed a stick and I was gonna like teach him how to sword fight. And he, when we engage in battle, reaches for my stick, so I give him mine too. So he's disarmed me in a peaceful way. Um, and instead of just unleashing an unholy wrath on
Uh-huh.
me, you know what he does?
Hmm.
He goes to his mother and gives her both sticks. No fight whatsoever.
Oh, that's so cute.
Resolves the conflict peacefully. He might be a politician,
Wow. What
but like a good politician.
Yeah, yeah, a
Like not
non-crooked
just a
one.
scumbag. Yeah.
This baby's going places.
Yeah, no, it was interesting interacting with somebody that age. I guess totally like honestly like nicest little boy I've ever met, but it you know, I suppose I continue to be happy I don't have to take care of anyone other than myself because I don't always do a great job at that, which is a great segue to a good interesting fan question, a little bit off the beaten path from what we've had in recent ones. How do you guys draw the line between self care and overindulgence?
It's an interesting question. I've never considered this before, which I just think like what a cerebral thought, like to
Yeah,
the fan that submitted this question, like kudos. It's
yeah.
nice to have some critical thinking every once in a while. Yeah, I think I lean a little bit too heavy onto the indulgence side. How about you,
Oh,
Charlie?
me too.
Yeah.
Me too, for sure. I mean, I guess the key the first difference that comes to mind would be self care can be rationalized in a reasonable way. Like, say
Hmm.
you've been go, 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 you're on a work trip, you get home, and all your buddies say, hey, come meet us out for this and that, and you have the option of having a totally packed social calendar for a weekend, or if you listen to yourself and you're depleted, self-care would be maybe go to just one thing and spend the rest of the weekend kind of doing things that bring peace to you, if it's
Yeah.
resting up, reading, whatever. So versus overindulgence would be maybe allowing, I would say, like anxiety, depression dictate that more so. As in, instead of listening to yourself, like, should I see people? Should I not? Should I take care of myself? It's just like you get overwhelmed by all those options and you default to just what is the simplest thing I can do? And then you indulge your own need in kind of a irrational way.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, a lot of it probably centers around, like, eating and diet too. As
Hmm.
somebody who loves to snack, it's so easy to justify, like, eating an entire bag of Flaming Hot Cheetos as self-care because 'cause I've had a stressful week. But then when I wake up the next morning with heartburn, like,
Yeah.
then I'm like, "Oh, no, that was overindulgence." And I do think that line is extremely tough to toe because you can be really disciplined, you know what I mean? Like, you can eat so well. I'm using eating, but, like, you could use this with working out, whatever. And you get to the point where you almost, like, don't crave any of those things anymore, and then that's great, but, like, it's like, a lot of these things are just set up to be addicting, specifically snacks. Like,
Hmm.
the human brain cannot compete with, like, the addictive qualities of, like, snack foods or just, like, unhealthy, like, fat, sugars, whatever, and so, like, you have to be very careful. Like, I feel like you have to have, like, an actual, like, set day or something that you're gonna have, like, these snacks, but, like, if you just start, like, letting it creep in your head that, "Oh, I've just had a hard day," and you get off of
Yeah.
that, like, it's a slippery slope for sure.
What the tricky thing about it too is, as somebody who does much better in structure, when you structure, like if you're thinking about like diet and eating, when you have so much structure around that, it's it's easy once you get into a routine to not overindulge like that. But then once you indulge a little bit, it's hard to stop being like, well, I haven't had flaming hots in 2 months. And then you like ram a bag of that and then like DoorDash, an entire pantry full of garbage to your
Yeah, that's
location
the
because you're
thing
like,
is, like,
that's the night. Tonight's the night. It's one night only. And then it becomes like continues
then
to
you have the
happen. I
snacks
mean,
laying around the next day, flaming hots to cool them off, you need some ice cream. Yeah, you get it, like,
Yeah, yeah. And then you fast forward 3 days and your lunch is ice cream and Flamin' Hots, and you're in a bad, bad place. It is, I mean, it's hard. It's balance is so hard. I
oh,
mean,
yeah.
just in general. And the flip side of that is when you're in a really structured, like, good for you mode, you generally, to a fault, maybe do not indulge, and that creates this, like, kind of Breaking Bad desire where you way overindulge. So I would say in terms of drawing that line, maybe the key is balance in general. Like it's not having like rewarding yourself indulging every day, but certainly if you're somebody who's schedule routine oriented like I am, like you need to allot some room for some either cheating on your diet or like go get that beer drink with somebody. Like you need to have some of that, otherwise you just poling from extreme to extreme, and that's equally as bad as
Yeah,
anything else.
it has to
So
be sustainable. I think that's like
yeah, that's a great call.
find something that works for you that's actually sustainable. And a slight tangent, but like cut soda out of your life. It's
I love this. I
just
love
not
this.
good for you.
It's a very fine line between self-care and overindulgence, but you know what's never acceptable? A soda.
I'm just saying, like,
I love that
just
take.
cut it
I
out.
love that take.
Cut it out. Drink wine instead. Like, drink water, wine, whatever you want, but, like, soda is, like, the worst possible calories you could be giving yourself. Just don't do
I
it.
love it.
Cut it.
I love it. It's a slippery slope. You go from one diet Coke a week until you got 3 16-ounce plastic bottles of Mountain Dew on your desk before noon every day of the week. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, and with that, we can move on, and so I think next.
Let's go to gadgets.
Yeah.
And also thank you to that fan for the question. I hope that was at some point there was a level of coherentness there. I know we kind of bounced around, but good question.
Now, let's take a step over to a recurring segment, overrated and underrated,
Yep.
specifically gadgets. And we've got
Gadgets.
two on our list. The first being the Apple Watch. Charlie,
Mhm.
is the Apple Watch overrated or underrated?
All right. I've put a lot of thought into this. It is underrated. I
Oh,
think my gut reaction was to say it's overrated. The price point is not great. I think in a fashion sense, it's not, it doesn't do things for a lot of people. I think the cumbersomeness of charging it would be a pain in the ass too. I don't own one. And I still say it's underrated because I think, what is technology and gadgets supposed to do for us? It's supposed to enhance utility, make things easier. And I think the thing that's really cool about an Apple Watch, not that I understand exactly what it can do in this realm, but tracks your sleep, tracks your heart rate, gives you a bunch of like bio information about yourself that I don't know exactly how actionable, usable it is, but I think that is like a really interesting thing to explore. Like gives you some stats on your own life. Like that's you can't make change without data or without recording what's going on. And so I like that. And I think about that mostly with sleep. Like my sleep cycle is very bad, and so I think I would benefit from like some rigor around that. So in terms of actual utility, I don't think there's a ton of utility in terms of, you see a text on your watch as you feel it buzz in your pocket, but but I do think, the actual um you know I don't even know what they call it, like biological readings it gives you. Does that sound right, or does that just sound
biometrics.
like biometrics? Yeah, there you go, there you go. That stuff is interesting to me. So for that, I call it underrated. And I don't own one. So I'm not the most educated.
I think the Apple Watch is so overrated. And for the same reasons that you're trying to claim it's underrated, like the biometrics. Do you know how many people I've, like, witnessed be like they'll start a workout, like, I'll be, like, playing pickleball or tennis with them, and then, like, 20 minutes in, they are all of a sudden pissed, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't start my workout on my watch," and they're like they, like, let it ruin their time, or before I'm, like, about to go on a jog with, like, a friend, they're, like, dinking around with their, like, watch trying to get it so that they get credit for this, like, it's I think the biometrics are seriously overrated, like, who gives a flying you know what on that? Like I think yeah, tracking your sleep's probably great, but like that means you have to wear it, and that also means if you're getting like emails or texts in the middle of the night, your fucking wrist is buzzing off the chain. I think it's a net negative. Like I think people obsess over their biometrics too much. Like, what are you really gonna learn about your resting heart rate when you're asleep? Like, what does that actually going to do for you in your life that's gonna be actionable? Like, are you gonna drink, like, chamomile tea before you go to bed? Like,
And this is just devil's advocate on that, but, like, let's say, I think that would indicate whether you're getting REM sleep or not, and maybe I don't know, all it would do is give you information that would allow you to improve your quality of sleep or life, sleep cycle. So I think it gives you some of the tools. Where I will agree with you, though, is I've seen people trying to close their circles, like, I
yes,
think that's, like, the exercise
yes,
portion of it,
yes.
and if that's, like that can sometimes be, like, walking in a circle until you hit your step goal, like, that's I would quibble with the value of that, but,
I've seen
um,
people cheer because they've reached their stand goal for the day
they people have said, though, sitting is the new smoking.
over soda.
Well, soda is the new smoking. No, like, they're saying, like, because everybody's working at a desk and, like, sitting for 8 hours a day, like, people don't know how bad that is for you and, like, your
Well,
joint
thank
mobility and other
God
stuff.
I have an Apple Watch on my wrist to tell me to stand every 15 minutes. Like,
Well, it's not even that, John. Think about this. You're wearing your Apple Watch and you're being congratulated because you've hit your standing goal. You're feeling good about doing the right thing. That's what the Apple Watch
these
is
are
about.
some of the better apps on that watch. These are the ones people use. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, that thing is a joke. Like, just come on. And everybody feels like such like a techie, like, I don't know, sporty person wearing them. Like, I also, I guess I should disclose I don't own one. I'm probably not the most qualified person to have an opinion on this, but like, my opinion is they're dumb.
So what about this? I really really thought your angle was going to include attacking the fashion piece of it, which I kind of seeded in my intro because I've heard a lot of that too. I heard a buddy told me a story. He was an Apple Watch owner. This happened maybe 6 months ago, and he was at a get together, and he doesn't think this happened because somebody saw him wearing an Apple Watch, but he overheard somebody, a woman at this get together, say, "Apple Watches are so out." And then he was wearing his, and so he had to like make that tough decision of like, if she already like, do I just slide this off my wrist and put it in my back pocket? Like, what do I do now? So I think that's maybe the like, if you're not, to your point, like if you're not wearing it for exercise or sleep or whatever you're trying to get the metrics on, it's, I think, maybe not the greatest fashion statement either.
You should not wear an Apple Watch to make a fashion statement. Like, if you go to like New York or LA and see people that are like interested in fashion, you're never like 0 out of a million times are you gonna see somebody that's, like, actually fashionable wearing an Apple Watch. Like, it's not fashionable. If you're going out, just take it off, put on a different watch, like, or just don't wear a watch. Like, overall, I think watches are a little overrated just in general.
Yeah, but how are you going to tell the time unless you're wearing a watch?
I yeah, and with that, we can move on, and so second overrated to underrated. Ring doorbells. What do you think?
So before I release whether I think it's overrated or underrated, I have a huge issue with the Ring doorbell and all of like the advancements in lawn and door security. And I think, I don't have kids, but this is like a huge step back for like childhood shenanigans, because you can't go round up your buddies and go ding dong ditch a bunch of places. Or did you ever do the ding dong ditch variant where everybody is laying like in a secret spot in that person's yard, and then the kind of the winner is the person who can stay in the yard longest, like the last
Ooh.
person to run away is the person who like won at that house. So it ruins all of this because you're all on video. There's no, like, the person probably is not coming to the door if they see on their Ring app or however it works some dude bashing their what's it called, doorbell, and then just sprinting off. They're like, what a jackass. So like, I'm not advocating that ding dong ditching is good, but it is, that was a really fun thing to do as a kid. So I don't really like the tech for that reason. And so I guess I'm going overrated. And so that's a piece of it. The other thing is to be able to monitor your front door and have one more thing you're worried about when you're on vacation sounds like a pain in the ass. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not saying I'd rather be like robbed blind when I'm out on vacation, but I want to limit the amount of things I'm worried about in my home life when I'm on vacation. So to me, it's just like one more layer of like, well, shit, there's something going on at home. My Ring app is going crazy right now.
I will say, as a general rule, like, Ring doorbells are pretty accurately rated. I would say, if anything, slightly underrated.
Oh, wow, we're 0 for 2
I
today.
know. My angle on this is they help solve crimes.
Oh, Sheriff John.
Yes, and they've led to a lot of funny ass content on, like, the internet where you get this, postman pulling up, rings the doorbell, like, a dog runs after him, he falls down the steps, like, it's hilarious, we all benefit from
His
that, like
pants come
yeah,
undone, his ass is revealed to the camera, everybody laughs.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
good humor that comes from these Ring doorbells, and, like, I think the realization that there is a lot of shenanigans that happens just outside your house.
Dude, I was originally poo-pooing your "it solves crimes" thing, but in the same vein that it produces really funny internet videos, I've seen a bunch of videos on Reddit of essentially someone being tracked. Like, they'll throw up a video of somebody stealing all the shit that got delivered to them and running off,
Mhm.
and then they get doxxed and the crime is solved. So yeah, no, it has some utility too, for sure.
Yeah. Should we just revisit the wine, see if it's spoken to us throughout the course of this pod, see if we have any other lasting
Sure,
opinions on it?
sure.
I'm gonna take one
Yeah,
more
let's.
sip.
I'd say open it up to some tangents. Let's sip wine and just talk about whatever comes to our mind. Go off script. It's dangerous. The producers hate when we do this, but we're gonna do it this
Our
time.
production team loses their mind when we go off script. It's, wild.
I got Ralph in my ear screaming at me right now. Cut it. No, we're gonna keep rolling. We're gonna keep
"Shut up,
rolling.
Ricky, we're going."
Yeah, we're gonna keep plowing ahead.
We're going off the cuff. For me, I'm still getting this very ambiguous, like, red fruit spice variant. I hear spice
Hmm.
comes from when you age it in, like, French oak, specifically new French oak, so it's not muddled with all these other wines that have been aging. I
Hmm.
I'd be hard pressed to assume that Kui, or how do you say this? Koi?
I said coy, but it's a your guess is as good as any.
Cuy, Kui, it was probably aged in new French oak barrel.
Oh,
You know what we should do, Charlie? We should give this a live rating. We've never actually given an out of 10 rating on the podcast.
yeah, yeah. Okay, let me think.
And by the way, for the listeners that were curious, 14% ABV on this one. So not quite a howitzer, but it's packing a punch.
And I think, on the topic of reviews, I really think it'll be interesting once we start lapping with additional bottles of the same wine variety. Like, once we have 5 Malbecs, it'll be easier to say where this sits. I mean, to me, this seems just like a true 5. Like, it's not bad. I'm not getting like a hangover sense from it. I don't feel like it's like a hangover in a bottle. Um, but it's also I really do think that Zinfandel we had last week, that was maybe one of our better bottles. That bottle was good. That bottle was really good. And this doesn't make me feel that way, but it's also not something that I'd go in the store and be like, "Oh, not this again." So it'll play. I'll give it a 5.
Charlie, that's an interesting take. I kind of agree. I think this being from Mendoza gives it some props. Like, that's big time. Like, that's the wine region of Argentina. And part of wine is the terroir, like where it's from. And like being from Mendoza is big. Like,
But is it though? Because 75% of it comes from there. Like, 3 out of 4 times you have Malbec, it's coming from there, right?
I mean, I'm gonna make the argument, like, it's cheaper to produce out there, so you're probably just getting a little bit of a higher quality of wine for this price point. Like, this is not an expensive
Yeah,
wine
fair.
by any stretch of the imagination, and I think you're getting very fair, if not slightly better than average quality for the price point, and for that,
Mhm.
I'm gonna give this a 5-1. I think it just tips the
Oh,
scale.
wow. You got a random topic on your mind? I kind of want to talk about something for 5 more minutes. I know we're kind of coming up on time, but anything on your mind? I have one thing on my mind, but I don't know anything about it, and I don't know if you would know anything about it.
Shoot.
What do you think about spycraft? Like the art of being a spy.
Ooh.
I was doing a little listening on this, and there's kind of two fields. There's the hardware side, like how people more effectively spy on other people, and then there's like the personnel side. So like putting somebody in the country you're trying to spy on, have them assimilate and report back.
Hmm.
And what I learned in my very limited research is there's way more spies than you think there is, which is kind of worrisome for me. It's all an information battle.
I always wonder about that because I mean, you always hear about Russian spies or, whatever country is out of favor from a foreign policy standpoint. Like all of a sudden you hear they have spies everywhere. Kind of interesting because, like, I do believe that the US probably has spies everywhere. And
For
I think
sure.
what's really fascinating about modern day spycraft is it's like, I feel like if we had a spy in Russia, it's probably like a native Russian or like close to it, and this person's probably working in the government.
Who's turned against the cause. You don't grow a Russian spy in America. You hope that somebody sees injustice there and says, "How can I fight back?" They turn to a life of spying.
Yeah, it's like likely a defector. I mean, again, I don't know a ton about what goes into like creating a spy, but like I do feel like when you have some of these leaks, I know America has very powerful spies, and I assume like it's vice versa. Like there's people like high up in governments or in like militaries. It's just crazy to think about. Like imagine going to work every single day being like a mole, like knowing that like you're doing your
Dude,
day job, but at the same time you're like trying to take down the establishment you're working for.
and you almost need to have this like strong impetus to push you to be a spy, because who the hell would sign up for a life like that? You're living a double life. All your friends that you're creating, all your people you're spending time with, you're actively working to undermine. You get no slice of the glory. And even let's say your spy work leads to a huge military informational success for the country you're spying for, you are not on a parade. You're like hidden for the rest of your life, because the second they know you're the leak guy, you're the spy, you become endangered.
Yep.
It's a life I couldn't imagine signing
And
up
if you're
for.
good at your job, like they're probably just going to send you on another assignment. Like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
do you get like what if you like break some sort of code in Russia and then you just get reassigned to like Iraq?
You'd probably be a less effective spy if you're like a native Russian, but you're trying.
Do you make like a government salary? Like are you just doing this for the joy of deceiving people?
Well, that's the thing. That's the other profile. Like, here's the things you're looking for in a spy: is somebody who likes tricking people and like living in the shadows. Like, it's like who comes to the table and is like, "That's for me." Like, I want that. The only like real upside of it, and it would take a certain person to want something like this, but the benefit is that you're exposed to very sensitive information, and
Mm,
thus you understand the world better than other people, or you understand like governments, politics better than other people. But it endangers you as well, because let's say like people don't want loose ends running around. Like, I feel like you're always endangered if you're a spy.
I agree. And I feel like given that if you're a spy and you love the idea of spycraft, wouldn't your like dream, sick, twisted fantasy be to be a double agent? And all of a sudden you're like,
Ooh.
you become a spy for your respective government in this other country's government, but then you go to that government and you say, "Hey, I'm a spy." And then you just start working some double agent angle. Like you love this shit. You're married to the game. Like you can only be a spy. Like
The only thing that would be better than that is right as you're getting your flowers for being a double agent, you've turned heel. You then begin your operation as a triple agent,
mhm.
and you come right on back,
You double
and then you
cross
start
the double
you
cross.
double cross, because then you're covering your tracks too. Like, they would never expect you to defect again. You just totally burned America,
Oh, yeah.
but now you're working for America again.
You're right back there, and you're just doing
Honestly, This whole conversation makes me think we need to start talking about, just without doing any real research, conspiracies. That could be a good thing to talk
I'm
about
so
too.
in.
I usually don't indulge them that much, but just this spy talk has me thinking a little differently.
I'm so down.
Actually, one last thing before we go, and we didn't give this fan enough time in the sun, but
Yes.
fan of the week
Yes.
this week is going to Michael Kusky on Instagram, as well as the Fat Chance Buddy podcast. Him and his team put together awesome podcast, super funny, and he gets fan of the week because he has reposted a number of our stories, brought some of his listeners to our listening base, and additionally offered us some insights, tips of the trade as we've tried to prepare and put together our podcast. So big shout out to Michael Kusky. Everybody, if you like listening to us, definitely give Fat Chance Buddy a shot. They do great stuff, and they're all very funny. So appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Michael. Like, you're the man. And again, he reposted one of our stories so that his followers would see us, get our message out. That's what it takes to get fan of the week. We're out there. We're active on social media. We're looking for you. We're trying to hunt you down as fan of the week. We want to see your engagement. Like, let us have.
We might even have some people in our followers who are actively engaging in some spycraft on our behalf
Mhm.
to determine you think they're just another follower, but they're actually feeding us inside information on who really deserves the fan of the week. So
That's
we
right.
got a number of different angles to get there.
We got eyes on the inside on all of you. So with that,
Yeah.
it's been a nice pod, Charlie. This has been a
Yeah.
fun week. For all of our listeners out there, we are on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We're also on YouTube. Go check us out on YouTube. Taylor from YouTube is dropping comments on the daily. We'd love to see it. That was last week's fan of the week.
There's only one thing we'd ask of a fan of a week, and that's a point where you could, once you get that honor, you indulge yourself a little bit, but just don't go crack a soda if you're gonna do it. Go smoke a cigarette, go, do any other indulgent
Cigar,
thing, but
even
don't have a soda.
inhale a cigar before you take a sip of that
Yeah.
that devilish
You'll
juice.
you'll be better for it. But yeah, hey, everybody go check out Koi Malbec at Trader Joe's. Good bottle. Ended up being a net 5.05 out of 10 by our rating. And thanks again, everybody, for listening. We will talk to you again next week.
We will see you next week. Thank you all. Bye.